Hi, this is Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextral Gunfighter. This is episode 2 of the Ambidextral Gunfighter video series, in which I give you my process for becoming ambidextrous. And for the most part, this is a task of basically eliminating a dominant eye. What we want to do is teach both eyes to be able to pick up the sights. And the second thing we're going to learn is transitions, how to transition from left to right. And that's going to vary based upon whatever weapon system you happen to use. I will demonstrate what I have come up with the Desert Tech MDR. The other thing is to be perfectly mirroring from one side to the other, so that if your elbow is directly underneath the rifle when shooting right-handed, you want that elbow to be directly under the rifle when shooting left-handed. And the angle of your body with respect to the target should be identical. Your physical position should be the same from left to right. So anyway, mirroring is in regards to physiology. And there's two types of physiology. One is proprioception, and then the other is kinesthesia. Now I'm going to use physiology, the word physiology, to mean both of those. But the first, proprioception, is basically having a feeling for your position, your body position from, and in our case it'll be your body position from left, or from right to left and left to right. Now, kinesthesia is a perception of motion, your body in motion. So you think of it almost like dancing. And that's going to be part of the transition thing, as we transition from right to left. But I'm going to use the word physiology to mean both of those, just because I can pronounce it better. So to train our eyes, then that's what we want to do first. We want to train our eyes. It's going to be our focus, is to train each eye to be able to pick up your sighting system. Now, to do this, you're going to keep both eyes open, completely open, relaxed, both eyes open. Now, kind of a side benefit of keeping both eyes open is that you retain some peripheral vision. So that has some martial value if we're talking gunfighting. And even for the hunters, it has some value, because you could, if you're sighting in on a particular deer, and then out of your right eye you spot a bigger buck, be advantaged to say, oh, well, I'm not going to shoot this one, I'm going to switch over and shoot the other one. So the way we're going to practice this is we're going to use a paintball bunker, and you can at home, I assume most people don't have a paintball bunker at hand, but that can be replaced by a big tree, a cardboard box, a door frame. Just use your imagination, just something to create cover, to shoot from behind. And what we're going to do, we're going to get up close behind that cover first. And so we're going to get right up behind the cover, right-handed or left-handed, and then just peek out one side with our optic and our eye and see our target, and the other, and both eyes open, and you're close to cover. And the left eye, in this case, if I'm shooting left-handed out the left side of cover, the left eye is going to see the target and your reticle or your sights, and your right eye is going to be blocked by your cover. And so one eye is going to see something. It's going to see something valuable, something rich in the environment, and the other eye is just going to see this bland paintball bunker or cardboard box or whatever. So the brain, what it does is it says, there's some information on this eye and not so much on this eye. So the brain learns we're seeing something over here, we're going to focus, transition our focus to this eye, because it can see something. Now you can practice this at home, of course, with an unloaded weapon like your dry fire practicing, and a Nerf gun, airsoft. You can use even a dowel rod with a straw taped on top to be your sighting system to practice, to train the eyes. And but I do think that having an optic, especially illuminated optic or a red dot, helps in training the eye, because that's something extra in there that kind of draws the brain's or captures the brain's attention and help you focus from one eye to the other. So here's the process. Day one, and we'll do this, you'll do this for maybe 1 or 2 days, but you're going to practice right close to cover, right in behind it, tight close. And okay, you'll start out left side, and you're going to come out the left side of cover and just expose that sighting eye and the optic, your sighting system, and the right eye will be blocked by cover. And you can practice your dry fire if you want. And then you'll switch over to the other side. And this time, in this case, if I'm shooting right-handed out the right side of cover, the right eye now is seeing the rich environment, and the left eye is being blocked by the cover. Now both eyes again, keeping both eyes open, relaxed and open. What we're going to train is train our brain to change the focus from left to right eye based on what we have in our optic. So practice this close to your cover for 1, 2, or maybe 3 days, depending on how comfortable you start feeling with it. And you should pick it up pretty quickly when you're close to cover. You should pick up to where your left and right eye can see the sights, because basically the other eye is being blocked by your cover. I mean, there's basically nothing for your brain to really focus on when that cover is this close. Now on the next step, after you've done the first shooting, practicing from close behind cover, is to take 1 step back. And you're going to do the exact same thing now. And at this point, as you switch from one side to the other, the blocked eye gets a little bit more information from the environment. While it's mostly still blocked by your bunker, and the left eye is still the richest view of the world with your optic or your sighting system. You're basically teaching the brain, okay, you're exposing a little more information to the blocked eye, but still have that rich information in the left eye. And so now practice this, a step back from cover. And you may need to do this for a day or 2.
One side of cover to the other, practicing picking up those sights from each side with the free eye being blocked by the bunker.
And then after that is to take another step back from cover. So now you're 2 steps back from cover. And we go through the same process again. And you can see as the left eye pokes out from behind cover, it sees the target and just the rich environment, and the right eye, the exposed eye, is seeing still mostly blocked by the bunker, but it is seeing a little more information from the real world. And when you transition to the other side, it's the exact same thing. The eye with the optic or your sighting system is seeing the target and seeing a little more of the world, while the open left eye is mostly blocked by cover, but is starting to see more information.
So just keep practicing left side, then right side, and then back, over and over.
And as you may guess, that after you've practiced this for a few days, you're going to take an additional step back. So now we're 3 steps back from cover. And we're doing the exact same drill, left and right from behind cover. Doing this transition, left and right. And again, as you've taken this 3rd step back from cover, the blocked eye is gaining a little more information from the environment, and the sighting eye still has that rich view of the target and the optic. And if you've got illuminated reticles, like I said, I believe that will help in the training. But you're training the brain to go, as you get more and more information to both eyes, to be able to switch your focus from one to the other.
Definitely is not rocket science. This is really easy to learn. It just takes time, just practicing it left and right, left and right. Keep at it.
Now you may guess, the next step, the fourth step, is to take another step back from behind cover. And so now we're getting a bit back from cover, and the blocked eye is seeing quite a bit more of the world. And the optic eye, the sighting eye, is still getting that rich environment to focus on. And as you switch from left to right, each eye transitions or learns to pick up your sighting system, even though the blocked eye is seeing more of the world out there.
In paintball, you would often work cover from kind of far back like this if you were in a one-on-one gunfight. It would give you a little, your mobility be a little bit better to transition from one side to the other.
Now, after you've done this and you're starting to feel comfortable that you can, from behind cover, shoot left and right, now we go into the open field situation where we're out from behind cover, and now you're starting and you shoot your left-handed and you've got both eyes open, and the left eye is looking through the optic, the right eye is seeing the world complete. And then you transition to the right-handed, and it's the same thing. Right eye is seeing your sighting system, your target, and the left eye is seeing the whole world.
So just remember, keep both eyes open. Try to mirror your body position from one side to the other, make the transitions, and then let your sighting eye pick up the optic.
And at this point, what we're hoping that we've accomplished is that you've trained your brain to be able to switch focus from one eye to the other. And then also at this point, while it should be that your brain is automatically looking for the sighting system, that should be its primary focus. It should tend to want to favor the eye that has a sighting system on it, because we've trained it to do that. Now the thing we can do now is we can now practice mentally changing our focus, so that even though you are out in the open field and you're shooting left-handed and your left eye is looking through the sighting system, the right eye is seeing the world out there, we should be able to be in the optic and then come from out of the optic and look at the world with this eye, the free eye. And that gives you the ability to maintain awareness, situational awareness of the world around you, and to switch from one to the other. Now there's an interesting technique called Bindon aiming concept. And this is kind of somewhat related to what we're talking about here as far as training the eyes to pick up the information of the optic or the sighting side of your view. Now, Bindon aiming concept, I believe it was advocated by Bindon, which I think is the founder of Trigicon. And what that idea is that as you are in your optic, if you swing and you're panning quickly, the view, this is with both eyes open, just like we've been talking about. As you pan, the view in the optic, because it's magnified, and we're talking about a magnified optic here for Bindon aiming concept, is the environment is blurred, but the reticle remains clear. And especially if you have a lighted reticle, it becomes, or a red dot, it becomes very, it stays clear, even though the background behind your sighting, your reticle, is blurred. Now what happens is your brain will take the thing that you see clear in your optic, your reticle, and basically combine that with what your left eye is seeing of the real world. And so your brain takes two images, the reticle from one eye and what's the open eye is seeing out in the real world, because it's, even though you're panning and with it being not magnified, that is not as blurred as much, and it combines those. So basically it almost gives you this, if you have a lighted reticle, it almost gives you this red dot effect on the open eye. So it's something you can experiment with that as well. Now, as we're practicing this, training our eye, something else to focus on is to be sure that you're perfectly mirroring from left to right. And that's something we'll have to probably continue practicing as you develop your non-dominant eye capability. So you want to make sure that you're mirroring perfectly from left to right. So that's where we talk about the physiology, this being aware of the position of your body and doing the exact same thing right-handed and left-handed.
Okay, here we're going to try to do some show perfect mirroring from one side to the other. Here we are starting with offhand, and I have to watch myself. I tend to, when shooting left-handed, want to bring my support hand back and hold the mag well on like an AR. You want to watch the foot position. Here, I'm not exactly perfectly mirroring my foot position when I transition from right to left. Everything else looks pretty good from this rear view here. And here we are, overhead view, and what we're looking for is maintaining the same angle left and right with my shoulders, the same angle left and right with respect to the target. And this looks pretty solid. Now I'm transitioning from standing to squatting, which is one of my favorite positions. Often calls rice paddy prone. This is a very steady position to shoot from while retaining the ability to move quickly. Elbows in front of the knees for good steady hold factor for squatting. 5.56 recoil is no problem for squatting. The 30 calibers, you want to definitely pay attention to your balance. Here we are doing kind of a close-up of a transition, how I do a transition on the MDR. Here's a rear view of squatting. Now we're going to switch to the kneeling position, which is the closest thing to squatting that is allowed at a Project Appleseed Rifle Marksmanship Clinic. Foot is extended well forward of the knee, and the elbow you want in front of your knee. Still pretty stable position and fairly quick to get in and out of for mobility. You can see here of setting down on my inwardly turned foot. Okay, now to prone, which is of course the steadiest position to shoot from, but limits your mobility quite a bit. It's not as easy to get up and take advantage of opportunities to move to different cover from prone. And transitioning from side to side is a little more awkward. And of course we want to mirror the angle of the body with respect to the target. Everything else needs to be mirrored as well, including your the trigger side leg, which I want to keep here. In this position, I'm trying to do a 90-degree angle, left and right. And of course, get your feet flat so they're not interfering with stability of the rifle. And here, you can see, there we go, get that foot out at a 90-degree angle, that trigger side leg. And then mirror it to the other side. I always seem to start out with the leg tucked in a little bit much on the trigger side, and then I extend it out.
Now the other thing is the transitions. Now transitioning from one side to the other is going to vary based on the rifle that you're using. And the bullpup here, I'm using a Desert Tech MDR, is I think an ideal ambidextral rifle, and we'll talk about that later in another videos. But the transition process is, for the MDR, in my view, is to first come off the pistol grip, come back to the just in front of the mag well, and then shift the foregrip hand to the pistol grip. Now at this point we are still barrel up and we are still able to shoot. Now to make the actual transition, we push the rifle out and over to the other shoulder, and again we're still able to shoot. We are muzzle up on the target, and then bring your hand forward for support. Now the reverse process, here we're shooting left-handed, is come back to in front of the mag well with the trigger hand or the pistol grip hand, and bring the foregrip hand back to the pistol grip. It's on the trigger. We could fire here if we needed to. We come out and over, and then hand back to the foregrip. Now I've seen there's lots of other variations on how you can do this. I think that's, in my view, is the best way, and it does a couple things. One, like I said, it keeps your muzzle up and on target. So if you're in a high threat environment, you always want your muzzle up. That's something we learned in paintball. Paintball, never bring your muzzle down. If you're up, you're shooting in paintball and you're loading, you load with muzzle up. If you're communicating with your teammates, you still have your muzzle up. So back to the mirrored positions. Now, what you want to do is make sure, hopefully you've developed some marksmanship skills, so you know the steady hold factors, like what they teach at Project Appleseed, and you know the natural point of aim. And so you know those techniques, and you're already comfortable with doing them right now with your dominant hand, say if you're right-handed. So if you're right-handed and you know your steady hold factors, you know how to get natural point of aim, now when you switch left, it should be perfectly mirrored and you should be doing exactly the same thing left-handed. And at some point, the brain kind of like figures this out, and it helps. That's one of the things I say, do this thing, this step back, or this practicing from behind cover over several days, because you want to go to bed and go to sleep, because the brain's going to be working on this stuff in your head while you're sleeping, and the next day it's going to go, hey, I know what's going on here, I'm going to apply my new skills, and it's going to keep refining that. And your brain does learn at some point to like mirror what you've learned with your current way of shooting. When you switch to your weekend, it's going to say, I'm going to copy what I've learned this way over to this way. So that fine trigger control you've got right-handed, we should eventually see that perfectly mirrored left-handed. Now in my Caring for Self-Defense video series, which is on handguns, I talk about that being ambidextrous on handguns, and then I go to favor, like saying, arguing for a left side carry and left hand presentation of your weapon after you become ambidextrous. And I give you the reasons why I believe that should be your default, is left-handed presentation, which you'll have to watch that video series. I'm not going to go over the whole thing of why. But in rifles, I can't think of any reason that you would favor one or the other, except as if you're working with squad tactics, and then you want to make sure that your squad is, say, equally distributed in their initial presentation of left versus right. So you have half your squad ready left-handed, half the squad ready right-handed. That's my hypothesis as far as squad tactics. I'll let the professionals take this and apply it. Now, we also talk in the handgun series about some of the physiological reactions of the human body to stress, to a threat environment. And some of those, just to run through them really quickly, one is that a crouch, and that's one of the reasons I think for gunfighting, it's going to be almost this paintball-like crouch and facing the threat. Other thing is you get tunnel vision. That is, if there is a threat out there, you tend to want to focus right on that threat. And so that's something else to deal with. And then auditory exclusion. It's difficult to hear anything else except what's coming from the threat. So you have to kind of break through auditory exclusion so that you can hear any of your teammates that you might have and communicate with them to coordinate your response to a threat. Of course, you get also in a high threat environment, a high stress situation, you get this elevated heart rate. And it is different than the elevated heart rate from physical exertion. It is, there's a hormonal dump that elevates your heart rate when you're under fear and high stress. And that your motor control skills become much coarser. It's kind of hard to retain the fine motor control skills. Now, it's one of the things I think is a huge advantage for a gunfighter is to go play paintball. Airsoft may get it too. I'm not experienced with airsoft, but in paintball, what I found is that, one, you get accustomed to those rapid fire paintballs coming whizzing just nearby, and those things hurt, so you don't want to get hit. There's that kind of a little bit of a stress, the fear of getting hit a little bit, and you want to learn under that environment to break through, escape the tunnel vision, break through auditory exclusion, and maybe learn to have that fine motor control skills as you're gunfighting in paintball. And in paintball, we have electronic triggers, which are very light, and to manage those triggers, it does require retaining that fine motor control. So I think paintball is a great sport for developing some of these martial gunfighting skills. It also and it will teach you and then reinforce the ambidextrous advantage. So when you go play paintball, and I'm talking tournament paintball, we're not talking about woods, playing paintball in the woods. We're talking about on a tournament paintball field with inflatable bunkers where you've got 5 minutes and it's an intense gunfight. And you'll learn more within just a few hours of playing that kind of paintball than you will in weeks of playing out in the woods. Now, what I'm hoping is I want to see people adopt and practice and learn these ambidextrous gunfighting skills. The sheepdogs in our community, I want to see them learn them. Our police departments and our military should all be trained to be fully ambidextrous, both with carbine, rifle, and handgun. Now, a lot of times you see kind of governments tend to become bureaucratically stagnant. And hopefully, me coming from the private civilian sector can help kind of generate some innovation. I'm not saying that I'm 100% right. I do know ambidextrous is beneficial, and I think my training program will get you there. But there's a lot of things that I'm getting a little more speculative beyond that. So you have to do some thinking on your own. We're innovating here. We're pushing the limits. And there's going to be a lot of people way beyond my skill set as far as marksmanship. And if they can take this ambi thing and thereby leverage your current marksmanship skill so that you are a marksman left and right, I think it's a huge advantage. Now, I would like to hear feedback from everyone who watches this video and goes through and teaches themselves this ambidextrous marksmanship skill, this marksmanship technique. And please give me feedback down in the comments. I want to know how long it takes you to develop the skill. So maybe if in a future version of this video, I can refine it, make it better. So let me know how long it takes you to learn it. Any places that you stumbled or had trouble, or if you're stuck and you can't get beyond your current dominant eye, let me know. And we'll try to see if we can come up with a way to work around it. I know when I learned it, I was 50 years old, so I know it's, old dog can learn new tricks, and so I think it's certainly possible to do this. I mean, I did it in 2 weeks. We had a bunch of young kids on our paintball team, and they all learned it really rapidly. And in fact, we did drill on it on our weak hand shooting skills, and most of us got to the point where we were actually a little bit better with our weak hand than we were with our original strong arm.
Next episode, we'll be looking at what features you need in your ambidextral rifle.
Anyway, this is Mark Laughlin. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share, and subscribe.